Good evening, everyone. So this is Hard Podcast in our IT career series, sponsored by crackingitjob.com. So crackingitjob.com is a portal that is supposed to help you in your career guidance, coding, and getting a good internship. It's all about uh, total holistic IT education. So today I'm going to discuss a very practical problem utilizing whatever we have learned in last two podcasts. So our first podcast, if you remember, was on salary growth and how your salary growth can be managed by your right kind of selection of company, technology stack, etc. The second one was on choice of the right kind of industry vertical. So today, what I'm going to present to you that given the fact if you have a multiple job offers and whenever you are a fresher or after 2 or 5 years you're looking to change your company, it is more normal that you will have multiple offers. And then I would like to show you how the information that I have presented to you in first two webinar, that is about the salary growth and industry vertical, how you are going to use those information to navigate yourself into your career. So let's start with a very basic thing that what is your career objective? Because what job is best for you will also depend on what you want in life. And normally, whenever you will go for any interview, especially after you have been successful with the coding round, any company HR or even the manager, hiring manager will be asking you, what is your career objective? Sometime even you will write it down over your CV that you want to learn, maybe you want to growth in AML career, you want to growth in cloud, but that's like only what you want in technology stack. There are many other aspects about what you want to do it in your life, and definitely the right job will also depend on right objective that you really believe in, because if you really don't believe in your career objective, it will be very difficult for you even to decide which job will be better. Because if you jump for a job which pays you simply the highest salary, or if you jump into a job looking at a company brand, or you jump into because they're offering a good tech stack, or you jump into because you think that you don't, you want to be living in that city, all of that can be erroneous decision, and I'll come back to that later. However, the worst situation, simply the worst situation is going to be when you have only one job in hand and you're kind of forced to join that job. Now, that might be the cases of a fresher. Typically, after 2, 3 years and 4 years of IT industry, and you are trying to change job and you're not getting multiple job offers, that itself can be a red herring that your career in IT industry may not be that long. Because normally, IT industry is one of those industry where number of good people are limited, number of jobs are practically many more times. So if you are one of those good people, you will definitely get multiple job offers. And if you are not getting that, it might be something that you should be very concerned about your IT skills. So let's start with a very basic thing. Can I advise you what kind of career objective you are going to write in your CV? Now, probably answer to that question, many of you might be thinking, okay, why don't you write something that is the something that HR or hiring manager is going to like? But it may not be true case. Even that will also vary because different company have a different objective in selecting. So never worry about what the other company is thinking about. Rather, you should be very truthful about what is your career objective, because in future that will ease up your relationship with your company, because your company knows what they're looking for and you know what they're looking for. And if both of them sync well, there is a better chance that you will enjoy your time in that company. So you really don't need to artificially inflate what you want in your life. You should be very straightforward during interview, and that's exactly is going to help you in this matter. So now let's start with a defined type of career objective that you have in your mind. You might ask for a 5 times increase in 5 years, and it's perfectly possible in your early stage of your IT career. This is exactly what I've shown in podcast one, that at the beginning of your career, when you're starting with a 3 to 5 lakh salary, it is highly possible to get a couple of multiple between 3 to 5 lakhs in 5 years. I've also given you some statistics how that is possible. So those who want to know whether one is real, I say it's a very real. 10% of the people in IT industries are doing that, and you can listen to our first podcast in order to understand that. Second thing is, the second one I already discussed in the second podcast, that do you want to go for cloud or do you want to go for AI/ML? So which kind of industry vertical do you think is going to be right choice? And those of you who have seen my second podcast, they have discussed that even if certain technology is very hot, for example, year to year growth rate of AI/ML might be somewhere close to 30 to 50%. Year-to-year growth of cloud is probably right now down to 13 to 10%. Does that mean if you are opting for AI/ML, is your career going to be better than cloud? I think I've given you the answer in my second podcast, and it is not as simple as that AI/ML is growing 50% rate versus cloud is going 10% rate. So you join AI/ML and your career growth will be higher than cloud. Why? I explained to you, like any other commodity in a market, it depends on demand supply, and supply line of cloud is tough. Why? Because if you want to work in cloud technology, you need to be exposed to AWS Enterprise Cloud or Azure Cloud. And unless you're actually joining a company that develops and gives you that kind of opportunity, kind of cloud career you want or kind of cloud skill you want, you'll never gather that. As opposed to that, in AI/ML, it's true that the area is growing at 50% rate, but if you look at any university, any training center, they all can teach you AI/ML libraries, problem, Python code, etc. So the supply line is very, very thick. Yes, the demand line in AI/ML is thick. Supply line is also equally thick. So I've shown you that at this point, actually the salary in cloud, if you look at my second podcast, that this is why even if cloud is growing at maybe one-fourth of the rate of AI/ML, salary growth in cloud is going to be higher simply because the supply line is not thick. So those who want some kind of career guidance as to what kind of industry vertical, tech vertical you will be interested, you should listen to my second podcast. The third thing is what kind of city you want to live in. So some of you want to be an on-site in US because you probably love US. Some people want to make money between dollar. Some people want to go Pune and Bangalore simply because there are too many companies. But with too many companies, there are also too much of traffic jam and other problem in life. So there'll be everything together. So choice of city is a very important. Location is very important. And there will be, of course, a lot of people, especially from tier two and other cities, who don't want to leave the place where they have grown up. I mean, especially, let's say, some cities who are traditional, like Madras, Calcutta, and Mumbai. There will be a lot of people who don't like to leave the city because maybe maybe because of the family, friends, and relationship, they just simply want a job in that city. So that's very important, the location. And it's not bad because I can tell you from my experience, whenever we browse to the resume, one of the thing we look into whether some people have put a special premium on the location because many of the people they want a particularly, I mean, today if you look at IT force, they're mostly like a mercenary. They can live in any city where they will provide you a better job. Now that is somewhat disturbing to the traditional company model where they want more steady people. So if you actually write down the name of the city you want to live in your career objective, that's not bad. Some of the company may be wanting that. And then fourth thing is many of them want to work for a big brand like Google or Amazon, and in many of the smaller engineering colleges at the beginning of the career, you probably want to be in Infosys, TCS, like this kind of major IT brand, and that is nothing wrong. In traditional industries, companies are like universities. For example, somebody in a state college versus NIT versus IIT. Similarly, when somebody look into your IT career, if they look into Infi, Google, and something, obviously that matters. But keep it in mind, in the case of IT, it's not that critical because at the end of the day, people will be still looking into your depth of knowledge, your skills, and etc. They just want somebody who can do the job. That become more important rather than brand. So yes, you might look for the company brand. Yes, it is helpful, but may not be that helpful compared to the other industry where this is important. So now let come down to a practical example, and I will go through the offers. Let's say that someone got five offers, and I'm listing all of them, and they're all freshers, and see how we can navigate through all these five offers to come to a conclusion. What kind of decision you can make it? So, for example, any kind of IT majors, and I tell you 80% of the or 90% of the jobs that still exist in Indian IT today, and it is rapidly changing, as I mentioned to you, are going to be mostly desktop or some kind of software maintenance job. That's like 80 or 90% business of most of the major IT. And the salary is less, more or less starting salary is 3.5 lakh, but that's what the most of the job people get. Even you don't need to be a good coder to be in that kind of job. Mostly what is required is the good English communication skill and aptitude skill. And let's say you get that job in Pune. So let's say that's one choice. And as I shown you in my second podcast, that any kind of maintenance, software maintenance job, which is what is available is plenty, is a kind of a death sentence that you will embrace if you join this kind of job, because that industry itself does not have much future because it's shrinking. Career growth is extremely slow. There really not much of a thing. So even if it's an infee, well, if you this is the only job you got, you should accept that. But I would suggest that there should be your last choice. Now, suppose somebody got another job from TCS in a higher band. These days, there is this. Mostly the people want to be developers. They're offering this kind of stuff for what you can call black belt type of people, the freshers. Let's say that is about JavaScript, web technology, and stuff like that. In fact, this can be very lucrative because, of course, the thing is, they will definitely try to give you more exposure to development and any kind of CM5 company that has a very good coding practice. You will actually learn a lot of coding compliance and stuff like that. So number two might be very lucrative. You may not be having the best cities to do that, but since job is good, you can opt for that. But you have to be careful about one fact, especially for this kind of situation, that if you really want to learn JavaScript or technology, etc., well, in a large company, your scope will be limited because in a large company, you will play a very smaller role. You will not get that much of exposure. So yes, that might be lucrative, but still your growth will be slow because you may not be able to get that much of exposure. And now let's come to a mid-brand kind of company like Genstar, LTI, and let's say in this kind of mid-brand and more after new technology like AI, ML, IoT, and stuff like that. Latest hot stack, cloud app, etc. Their brand may not be as high as Infosys, but still they do a lot of cutting edge product and stuff like that. The location may not be as lucrative from IT perspective, which is a Calcutta location and stuff like that. So what are you going to do on that kind of situation? Now, of course, if you are fascinated with AIML and cloud, definitely you should do that because this gives you a kind of an opportunity to jump into this. This is a kind of a very good offer in the sense that you know that you want to be in that particular area, you want to learn it. A company like LTI, Mind Intelligence, they're very much okay, mid-sized good companies, and they have good project. They work on more cutting edge, and because unless they work in cutting edge, they cannot compete with Infosys or TCS. I know that they do very good work. So in that case, my suggestion will be you will accept that even if it may not be the best of the brand you want, but you got to be careful in the sense that you should ask your HR or hiring manager and ask them that, who is the end client, what kind of account, what kind of mentor you get. So one of the things that I might worry about for the number three choice is what kind of mentor you get. So in most of the mid-sized companies like Genser, LTI and all of that, my experience is that they have do good project. But the middle management where you need the mentor, uh, there is a problem of the mentor. Why there is a problem of the mentor? Because in this kind of company, when people grow up in IML, in cloud app, tendency is that those people who would have been your mentor, they must have already left and joined some big product companies because salary and growth opportunity is more. So getting a good mentor might be difficult. So you really need to ask about the mentorship and need to be very careful about it because if you don't get a good mentor or training experience in some of these companies, you will be left to learn on your own, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It might be a good thing in IT, but a good mentor is worth more than anything in any company. Now, suppose you have a fourth choice in a startup that is offering several up in a Bangalore and they are doing JavaScript, Python, cloud, etc. In this case, what you again need to look into not the salary. All startup give you good salary. Bangalore will be good location, and you will be getting to a lot of exposure. But you have to also understand that your job may not be there after 3 months, after 6 months, after 1 year or 1.5 years because startup is a very fragile environment. So if you are okay with the fact that you don't care about the stability of the job, if you are okay with the fact that you don't care about the branding of the company, but you're very aggressive, that you want to learn the latest technology stacks, latest security, anything that is state of the art, and you want a lot of exposure, you want a good mentorship because most of the startup will have a charismatic people because typically startups are run by very highly charismatic developers because the bounty is very high. So if your focus is on learning, and you believe that I don't care whether the company will keep you for 3 months or 3 years, it's just that learning is your priority, then there'll be, I think, among all other thing I discussed, number four should be top of your choice, not because of the salary, but because you'll end up learning a lot. And after 2, 3 years, you are going to gain a lot in the salary market because you'll simply know a lot of it. So number five is this an MSC company offering a mobile app development in Surat with a 2.5 lakhs and this stuff like that. Now, this is also not a bad choice. I think if you compare to one, your number five might be a good choice, even if it's a less salary, no brand, etc. Because even if you learn mobile app after 2 years, you'll be able to migrate to cloud app. Most of the mobile app companies these days work in the cloud app as well because clouds are integrated with mobile. So you really need to ask the HR, will you get an opportunity to move into cloud and stuff like that eventually? And most of the small companies, you will get that kind of opportunity. So even if you start slow, if your company is right, where you will be learning a lot, typically in this kind of MSc, you will actually get a good mentor. So even if salary is less, even your city of choice may not be that great, uh, but eventually you can win when if you see that that company is offering you through mobile app to cloud app and stuff like that. So that's it's not a hopeless situation. All I want to say, the number one may be the absolutely hopeless if you are in desktop maintenance, but if you are into the mobile app development, even with a small salary, this can turn out to be very good in your career, given the fact you can switch over to cloud at a certain point of time. So that can be also good. So today I stop here because at least now I have shown you that how you're going to use the information that you have gathered in Fast to Podcast to your practical choice of life. And I hope this will be helpful. So, by the way, just to let you know that in cracking IT job, we focus on good coding. We're coming up with a new coding club. We'll inform that you soon this week. At the same time, we already have a lot of high quality question. We call it a Pocomo question because Pocomo is a Latin word meaning unknown. So these are a lot of tough puzzle type of questions in algorithms and defined topics in computer science, which I edit, by the way, collecting from the defined sources. You can buy these books to enhance your skills for cracking the coding exam or the test that you have to appear for different kind of companies, a little high standard. At the same time, in cracking IT jobs, we invite good mid-sized and startup companies to attract the best talent so that we can offer you good internship where you get a lot of chance for coding and stuff like that. So here in my the third seminar on IT career guidance. Next week, I'm going to discuss you in depth about what's the career of the mobile app or as a developer or cloud app developer. So that would be more technically what you're going to do in a particular tech stack vertical. Thank you. So I end my podcast here.